All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. It's 2:03 p.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. To my right is Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier and Commissioner Caroline Mejia. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Emily Klaus. We have County Manager Leonard Hernandez and Assistant County Managers Robin Campbell and Rob Gilder. We are calling this meeting to order and beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Mejia.
If you'll please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, land acknowledgement.
We'd also like to start today with land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge and thank the indigenous Salish peoples whose elders and ancestors have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial and who still inhabit the area today, specifically the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion regarding the proposed agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Everyone's seen the changes from this morning. Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We do have just one comment. We do have public hearings set at 3:30. I will call at that time to see if there's anyone here to provide public comment. If there is, we will pause the Board of County Commissioners meeting, do those public hearings, and then resume the Board of County Commissioners meeting if it's not done. But if there isn't anyone who wants to testify on those two items, then we'll continue on and do the public hearings at the end. With that, I'd like to turn to Commissioner Edwards, who I think had a few comments to make.
I guess I'd just like to make a comment. We've lost one of our community members, Neil McClanahan, that was very, very instrumental in our community in a lot of different venues, if you will. He was the undersheriff for 20 years. He was a lawman for 34 years. He was very active in our homeless community, our affordable housing. He was always looking out for the underdog, and that carried through all the way through as from his law experience of 34 years, but also after that he was on the council over at Tumwater and continued with the Housing Authority. So I would just like you all to know that yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, there was an article in the Olympian. If you'd like to know a little more, it was a good write-up, and he really deserves the recognition. Put a lot of time and effort into our community, so thank you.
Thanks, sir. And the county has been flying our flags at half-mast this week in recognition of Mr. McClanahan, who I knew from his work as a council member and as a longtime member of the Housing Authority. And he really set the stage for a lot of our housing initiatives and policy in this county. So we really appreciate his recognition. Okay, next up is a presentation. This is exciting for all of us, I think, up here. Our 2024 first inaugural art contest. We are going to be presenting the winners with their recognition. And we have Taylor Rome and Matt Rounsley from our Commissioner's Office staff, who pretty much ran this show tip to tail, and tell us a little bit about the contest and then what we're here to recognize.
Yeah, I'm Taylor Rome. I am the executive assistant to our wonderful Commissioner, Caroline Mejia.
I'm Matt Rounsley, executive assistant to Commissioner Fournier. So Thurston County hosted its first county-wide art contest over the last 3 weeks. This contest was open to youth, adults in our community, and county staff. The submissions were on display for commissioners and county staff to view and vote on. And we also posted the art on Facebook for the public to vote for their favorites. The winning artwork will be displayed in the county buildings for the next year.
We're excited to announce that we received over 50 submissions from nearly every zip code in the county and had over 100 staff members voting right in this room. The commissioners also voted and selected their favorites, and through Facebook we were able to get over 1,500 individual votes, and they were cast for the People's Choice Award.
Before we recognize the winners, we want to thank all individuals, cities, and businesses in Thurston County that helped spread the word about the contest. A big thank you to everyone who participated in the contest. As the commissioners can tell you, the talent was top-notch and the decisions were hard to make.
We will have the winners stand up and recognize those who won the Commissioners, County Staff, and the Public Choice Award. If you guys will all stand up when you get a chance to get to your name, and then we'll take a photo with all of our winners at the very end.
So in the staff choice voting, in the staff category with their piece Simplistic Beauty, we have Lisa Jackson. In the youth category with their piece Retro Heat, we have Maverick Collins. In the adult category with their piece Thurston Threads, we have Lindsay Taylor. And then the overall winner in the staff choice voting is Lisa Jackson with her amazing epoxy layered artwork, Simplistic Beauty, which is right up here.
In the Commissioner Choice voting, we have in the staff category with their piece Simplistic Beauty, Lisa Jackson as well. In the youth category with their piece The Beauty of My Home, we have Mia Ojeda. In the adult category with their piece We Should Catch Something, Roberta Berger. And the overall winner in the Commissioner's Choice voting was Mia Ojeda with their amazing diorama, The Beauty of My Home. And our Facebook winner, for the People's Choice winner, was Maverick Collins with Retro Heat. We want to thank all of the participants who participated in our art contest, and then we have certificates for you, and we would love to get a photo with everybody in our commissioner. Thank you.
Roberta was here. Maverick. Lisa. Lindsay. Oh, Mia. Here you go.
All right, everybody squish in.
Hey, Taylor's in.
Thank you.
So we will be doing a contest again next year. And I would point out that it was multimedia. We had a book of haikus submitted. There was photograph. I like to do music, so I'm thinking about musical entries or soliciting musical entries would be really neat as well. So it's wide open to whatever. Put it on your radar if you're artistically minded, and we'll have a new contest next year. It was a lot of fun to do. Okay. And then before we go to public comment, I wanted to recognize that the board, the county will be closed in recognition of the Juneteenth holiday tomorrow. Thurston County celebrates and recognizes Juneteenth to honor the resilience, courage, perseverance, and triumph of freedom over racial oppression within our country. This historic day holds particular significance as it marks the belated announcement of emancipation to enslaved individuals, symbolizing the enduring struggle for racial justice. Through this commemoration, we celebrate the rich heritage and contributions of Black Americans and honor sacrifices made by generations past. The board reaffirms our commitment to creating a more just and equitable society for all. With that, we will go to public comment. We have a lot of signups, so I'm going to go in order. We're going to go with 3 minutes today in light of the long agenda and the large amount of public comment. We have a lot of folks who have indicated on a particular topic, and I appreciate that. So I'll call your name. If you've decided you don't want to testify, you don't have to use your full 3 minutes. You can say, you know, I'm in agreement with previous speakers, totally up to you. But I'll go through and give the person who's up, person who's on deck so they can be ready to go, and then we'll go to Zoom. I know there's a lot of folks there. So first up is Linnea Comstock with Carissa Waters on deck.
Good afternoon, is that?
I'm sorry, I forgot to read the guidelines for public comment. If you could just hold tight and let me do that. If I have them handy, I don't know. Oh, here they are, right in front of me. Board of County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public at all meetings. There are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate. When called, please introduce yourself, including the address or area of the county in which you reside. Address board, not audience or staff. Silence your cell phones. The board will not respond necessarily to specific comments on an as-needed basis. The county manager will follow up on specific items. Speakers are limited to a total of 3 minutes to address the board today. None of that time can be donated to other speakers. The board reserves the right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the meeting for good cause. No comments that are lewd, offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. Comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. Remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board on appeal are not permitted. And then finally, all written materials provided to us will be considered public record subject to release upon request pursuant to Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 RCW. With all of that, go on. Thank you.
Is this on?
Yep, you're good.
Good afternoon. My name is Linnea Comstock. I live within the Olympia city limits as well as the Olympia School District boundary area. Junior taxing districts in Thurston County, such as Medic One, Timberland Library, and the Olympia School District, are going to experience budget cuts for a varying amount in their 2024-25 budgets due to your, and when I mean your, I mean the board's request to the Board of Natural Resources to halt 2 timber auctions sales, the Cabbage Patch and the Carrot sale, in January 2024. As you are aware, timber sales are managed and regulated by the Department of Natural Resources and is a major source of funding for school districts and other junior taxing districts such as fire districts, the port, county road maintenance, etc. On January 3rd, 2024, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, representing your entire board, commented to the Board of Natural Resources and requested that 2 timber auctions, 2 sales, Cabbage Patch and Carrot Patches, be halted. At the next Board of Natural Resources meeting on February 6, 2024, a motion was made by a member of the board, Mr. Cahill, I believe, to pause the Carrot and Cabbage Patch timber sales and remove them from the approved auction list per your request, and this motion passed. The total funds allotted to the Thurston County tax districts for the timber sales for Cabbage Patch is scheduled to be $1,258,435. And I have the spreadsheet for Carrot and Cabbage Patch here. It is publicly available by public disclosure, and you should, hopefully you have already reviewed this yourselves. The Olympia School District is currently undergoing a severe budget crisis. The expected revenue from the timber sales is vital to their budget. They're going to be losing $596,000 and $128,000. The expected revenue from timber sales is vital to their budget. Are you aware of that school closure and their budget crisis? On April 10th, you met with a group of environmentalists during a work session. Group represented were the Legacy Forest Coalition, the Center for Responsible Forestry, and the Washington Conservation Action Group. At that meeting, you heard from the environmental groups about the impacts of harvesting the timber to mature forests, but I did not see any representatives from those junior taxing districts at that meeting or at any other meeting about the impacts on the organizations of pausing the carrot and cabbage patch timber sales. It is not clear to me that you, the commissioners, actually understand the impacts upon your junior taxing districts of your actions. I would ask that you have a detailed and reliable plan and how specifically to replace the lost revenue to the junior taxing districts that DNR has a fiduciary responsibility to fund prior to any request to alter or interfere with established timber management and harvesting plans that DNR oversees. What you did on January 3rd was directly contrary to the basic principle of transparent government.
Thank you. Carissa Waters. Greg Volker on deck.
Hi, I'm Carissa Waters. Thank you. I am here representing Fern Gully Forest School as well as the Community Nature Foundation. It's a group of mothers, neighbors, and citizens of Thurston County who are concerned about our legacy forests. We are working together to protect legacy forests and old trees within Thurston County and within the city of Olympia, as well as supporting the letter that the board has given to DNR for the moratorium on logging legacy forests. We believe that the school funding should be decoupled from this logging industry. Our children's future should not rely on cutting the trees that their future actually relies on. These forests are much more valuable to us, standing and providing the many, many ecosystem services, including carbon sequestration, clean water, clean air, that our children will need for their well-being into the future. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting the future for our children.
Greg Volker, followed by Dave Toller.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for this opportunity to speak. This is a new experience for me. Feel on the spot. I support the moratorium. I also work with children who get the privilege of being in nature, and it's vital for the growth and development of kids also. I don't know if anyone is concerned about the world that the young people are growing up in, but their consciousnesses are sort of in peril due to technology, and a direct antidote to that is being in nature. And it's really helpful when you have a forest, as we do at Fern Gully Forest, when, you know, the trees are older than your grandpa or older than your grandpa's grandpa. This is like the kind of awe and enrichment that kids need to know, like, that we are a part of nature, that they have this belonging in this greater web. It's not just what they see at home, it's this big world. And, you know, logging has been going on a long time, and I think it's great to, you know, we need wood products. And the forests here that we're talking about, they're going to be gone very soon if we don't stop this. So it's not something we can get back. I'm also an arborist by trade, so, you know, like, one of the running jokes is that you know, you can, like, wait to prune branches, but you can't easily put them back if you already cut them. And I'm afraid that we're going to cut all these really big, valuable entities that that we're still learning about, frankly. We're just learning over and over again how we are not smarter than nature. We're actually learning how nature works in symbiosis, and human societies could actually do with a little bit of harmony and collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Dave Toller, Marianne Tompkins on deck.
Good afternoon. Dave Toller, Northeast Olympia. And, you know, we have a real crisis on our hands. We're probably going to see some deaths in Olympia this summer from a heat dome. Our food system is being disrupted from the catastrophic climate change that's occurring. It's coming, and we can close our eyes, we can pretend it's not there, but it's there, and a lot of people are going to die from it this summer across this nation. We need to do something about it, and the science says that we in Western Washington and Western Oregon have the greatest carbon sequestration tool on the entire planet, more than the Amazon rainforest. These legacy and old forests in Western Washington and Western Oregon, as science shows, are the best at taking that carbon from the atmosphere and putting it into the trees, which of course is what we need in terms of climate change. So it's a shame to see political leaders who still don't think climate change matters. I'm glad the majority of you do, and I really appreciate that. And I think when people tell us the choice is funding for junior taxing districts versus exacerbating this climate disaster that we're looking at, that's a really cynical choice to me. And it doesn't have to be that way. It's the lack of leadership from DNR. The Supreme Court has ruled they don't have to get funding from logging. They can get funding the same way all the park services do in this nation. There's recreation. People want to recreate. People want to visit those forests. There's revenue that can be had from these beautiful forests. But the only thing in their imagination is to make them into 2x4s, and they're worth way more standing by any measure. Amazon, Starbucks, these corporations based right here, they would love to buy those carbon credits from these forests because they're that valuable and they make their climate sheet look a lot better. Has DNR done any of that? No. All they do is provide the timber industry with what the timber industry wants, and it's time for that to stop. And I really hope that this county commission will help us do that. We've got to make that distinction. Tree farms are great. Forests are an ecosystem that we need if we're going to survive climate change. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and I hope you'll continue to do it as well. Thanks.
Mary Ann Tompkins, on deck, Heather Penns.
Well, good day, Commissioners. And I'm Mary Ann Tompkins. I reside in
Pull that down, Ms. Tompkins.
Oh, I
There you go.
reside in
That helps keep
unincorporated.
online.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I reside in unincorporated Thurston County. I do want to acknowledge that the junior taxing districts are trying to run schools without enough money. And from their point of view, we're all making it harder. But we do share a common denominator, and that's our children. The looming concern is what we're leaving for our children and their future. We need necessary changes for the climate crisis that we're currently facing by preserving the last vestiges of our legacy forests. These are the trees that survive wildfire events and help combat climate change. And I do want to thank you, Commissioners, for rightfully protecting our legacy forests and making decisions to help to fight against the climate change. And I know both these issues are exhaustingly under attack, but I am aware also that we have an outdated mandate to fund schools with timber harvest revenues, and it is a mandate that needs to be changed in the legislature. But in the meantime, because we have an entitlement to something, it doesn't always make it right. There's a wide variety of other sources to get funding which need to be explored. Logging our legacy forests is a temporary funding fix and a permanent failure for our environment because these forests are irreplaceable. We're responsible for this climate mess, and we're the last generation to do anything to help because we've waited until it's too late. And we continually debate environmental problems and go about business as usual, but continuing business as usual when all the signs say we need change now is bad business. So I've worked for corporations that went through continual change to stay alive, and that is where we are now with our forests and our climate. We can't afford to take down legacy trees that are working to keep our planet a viable place to live. So thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Heather Penns. Michelle Blanchard on deck.
Hi, I'm Heather Pence. I live in Olympia. And DNR is selling off trees to be logged on public land that include mature and old growth trees. Because we're in a global warming crisis, this must stop. According to the United States Geological Survey fact sheet, old growth forests of the Pacific Northwest store more carbon per unit area than any other biome anywhere on Earth. Legacy trees sequester and store carbon from the atmosphere for long periods of time. When a tree is cut, most of the carbon is released through waste during harvest and manufacturing. Newly planted trees will take decades before they store as much as older trees. These trees reduce flooding and erosion risk by holding water in the soil from heavy rains. They promote biodiversity and provide habitat for wildlife. This is why preserving the last of the legacy forests is so important. DNR has other trees it could sell to provide needed funds for the junior taxing districts. They have chosen to target the oldest, most carbon-dense and biologically diverse forests for logging in violation of their own policies and procedures. We are not asking DNR to do anything they are not already required to do. The Habitat Conservation Plan and the Policy for Sustainable Forests require DNR to restore to old growth conditions a minimum of 10 to 15% of state forests. DNR is logging many of the forests it should be protecting to meet this required target. Less than 1% of Washington's school construction budget comes from timber revenue. Washington educators have called for separating school funding from DNR industrial logging. DNR should stop timber sales in areas that are prioritized for protection or restoration. They should plan timber sales in other locations while exploring other alternatives to obtain revenue for the local taxing districts that do not violate state law or undermine our ability to mitigate climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Michelle Blanchard, Terry Ballard on deck.
Thank you, sir. My name is Michelle Blanchard, and I live in Little Rock, Washington. I have a beautiful view of the Black Hills from my front windows. And now, instead of Capitol Forest, it looks like a bad haircut. They are not logging responsibly. They are taking every tree and leaving a few saplings, which any biologist will tell you, when you leave the worst of the trees or any animal, you're not going to get very good genetic superiority or genetic resilience. Right now, what's going on is it's terrible to see that forest. People used to recreate there, and now, like for instance, you go out to McLean Creek, or excuse me, McLean Creek Nature Preserve, and there's clear cut, because that's what the companies are doing. They're clear cutting. They're not doing responsible logging. What's left? Well, what we get was Scotch broom, probably tansy. I would ask that this moratorium be held and stop the cutting. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Terry Ballard, Chris Leicht on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard. I live in unincorporated Thurston County, and I've been a resident of Thurston County ever since 2004, and I was born here in Washington State. I'm a 35-year veteran. I thought everybody was all squared away and I could come and transition right into retirement. No, that's not the case. Also, I noticed that the parking lot is full and most of the parking out there is taken up by your employees. I guess employees are more responsible than the people because they have to park across the street where the employees should be parking. But they're more important to you than actually the people that are in this room. In Resolution 15933 gives the county manager authority to do everything and it gives you, and you delegated your authority not to go down to the staff and answer questions. All questions have to be answered by him. Or you can do a vote of the people. That's what Resolution 15933 says. And 2 of the 5 people here who are county commissioners voted for this resolution. So I guess you can follow your own resolution, but that's not the case. In resolution in ordinance, not resolution, 16389, okay, you need, it's in reference to the Veterans Advisory Board. You need notice from the National Recognized Veterans groups in order to be on this board. You need to be their representative. They're not, they're just members. I brought this up, I tried to get the membership out of you last time, and I just gave up hope. You know, I know you don't care about veterans or the advisory board, but you do care about the money, by the way. And how's your plastic bag ban going for you? Well, now we have to pay for plastic bags, and plastic bags are throughout the county now, not just in Yelm and not just in Tenino, where they're exempt from it. Now we're paying for plastic bags and we're paying for paper bags. I wonder what is the case of environment on that one, okay? And as to end, we are not in an authorized building. We are outside the county seat. The county seat was established in 1861 and it needs to be voted on 2/3 of the people in afforded movement. This area that we're in right now was annexed in 1964. It didn't exist in 1861 by the vote of the people. Why are we legislating outside the county seat? Why are we paying for a building that is owned by somebody else? $10 million of fix-up for a $4 million building we don't own and we rent it out for $7 grand a month? Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Chris Leicht, and then Dennis Plank is on deck. I did see a hand on I just wanted to say for folks online, we will call, your name will be called. You don't have to sign up or do anything special. Once we've completed in-person testimony, names will be called and you'll have your opportunity. Sir, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners, Manager Hernandez, staff. First of all, condolences on the passing of former Undersheriff Neil McClanahan. I know he was an integral part of your legacy as the county sheriff, Commissioner Edwards. As a past Tumwater City Council member, I was fortunate to work with Neil on quite a few projects for the city. He will be missed. My name is Chris Light. I reside at 1546 Reservation Road. I'm also the treasurer of Lost Lake Resort Condominiums at the same address. I have with me 2 other board members, Mike Roberts and Mitch Johnson. We represent 250 units at Lost Lake. We are here for item number 9E on your agenda. Unfortunately, we were the victims of unscrupulous successor declarants who did not build out the condominium properly and left our infrastructure severely lacking in all facets. We were able to successfully eliminate them from our organization, but we were left to build and rebuild our condominium's water, sewer, and electrical systems. We became aware of and applied for a grant with the State Department of Ecology in September of 2022 with Thurston County as our sponsor. We were awarded that grant, thankfully, in July of 2023 and have been working with Ecology and the county for the past year on the proper process to go forward. Which brings us to today. We sincerely hope that you will approve this motion as it will be the first step in our rebuilding of the septic system. Again, that's item 9E on your agenda today. And also wanted to give special thanks to Jane Mountjoy Venning, who's now retired, and Susan Long for their assistance in the process. Thank you.
6D. We've reshuffled the agenda since this morning, and it's item 6D, but it's in there. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have.
Consent agenda?
No. Dennis Plank and Martin McCallum's on deck.
My name is Dennis Plank. I live in the Little Rock area. I'm here to testify about the legacy forest. And I can't really add a whole lot to what the people before have said, just that I thank you very much for your support of the legacy forest. And, you know, the timber companies own tons of land in this state. And if they want legacy trees, they can grow them. It just takes a few hundred years. That's it.
Thank you. Martin McCallum, Lee First on deck, and I'll call through these. And if anyone's changed their mind, just let me know. We'll just go through. Mr. McCallum, you're up.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners and Thurston County Commissioner staff. My name is Martin McCallum. I live in Olympia and a long-time Thurston County resident. I'm a member of the Nisqually River Council and a stream team volunteer for Thurston. But I'm wearing my Black Hills Audubon hat today because I'm here to talk about Capitol Forest. And as you know, the Capitol Forest is a state-owned property managed by the Department of Natural Resources. DNR is always under pressure to put our public forests up for timber sale to generate revenues for beneficiaries. And I understand that, though it is important to know that DNR has plenty of other trees in its public tree farms that can be harvested. What many of us have been communicating to the DNR Natural Resource Commissioners is to spare the legacy forests on groves owned public lands from these timber sales. Legacy forests are patches of remaining older, naturally regenerated trees. The plant stock in these special patches are diverse, with local genetics, and the forest floor has a network of surviving fungi, mycelium symbiotic communities. As you know, older trees offer benefits that younger trees can't. They retain more water, slower release over the drier summer months, and they help prevent flooding and erosion. I'm here to thank you, commissioners, for your recent letters to the State Public Lands Commissioner, Hilary France, objecting to the planned timber sales of legacy forest parcels in the Capitol Forest. County commissioners have an important voice in this process. And I know that there are county commissioners in Kitsap, Clallam, Whatcom, King, and others that have expressed have voiced their support for preserving these special groves that offer critical genome DNA resources vital in sustaining our state's biodiversity. There's a lot to be said about an ancient principle passed down by the Iroquois, that decisions we make today should result in a sustainable world 7 generations into the future. Finally, I can imagine future generations walking under a legacy canopy and then offering up their thanks to the 2024 leaders who had the foresight to spare these older trees. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Lee First is up, and then Christine Popovich. And just a reminder to let us know where in the county you reside, if you reside in the county.
Hello, my name is Lee First, and I reside on James Road in South Thurston County. I'm the Twin Harbors waterkeeper, and I work to protect water quality in the Chehalis, the Willapa rivers, and the watersheds on the west side of the Olympics. I live next to the Chehalis River, and I walk to it almost every day. I'm very concerned about the topic of clear cutting of the legacy forests in the Capitol State Forest. And I meant to bring a large photograph that I have of a recent clear cut of a legacy forest in the Willapa Hills. which the DNR says is not a clear cut. But when you look at the 172 acre unit, there's almost no trees left on it. So, you know, they call that a variable retention harvest. But, you know, I think nobody goes back to check. And most of the trees that are left in those units are along creeks, which is great. We need riparian zones for sure. But, you know, that is not a forest. And usually the trees that are left right along the creeks are not large trees. They're, you know, they're better than nothing. So I've spent at least 50 days walking in the Capitol State Forest. And I've been on almost all the forest hikes to the legacy forests. And part of my job is I have a federal grant to educate students in Southwest Washington about watersheds. So I've been to over 100 classrooms in South Thurston County, in Grays Harbor County, in Pacific County, in Jefferson County, the west half, and almost none of these school children have even been to see a real forest, which is completely different from a tree plantation. The reason that these forests are valuable not for their lumber, but for the immense ability to sequester carbon and for the ecosystem services that they provide. But the main reason I'm here is because of water. So these forests, the older forests, slow water down. And the clear cuts, when we have a lot of rain around here, when a lot of rain hits a clear cut, it runs off. It's winter water, and it's gone, and it causes floods. And I'm almost out of time. So we need these forests because of their ability to slow water down, let it percolate into the ground, and keep water cold, especially in Cedar Creek, which is a really important tributary of the Chehalis River. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christine Popovich, Vanessa Laval on deck.
Excuse me. Christine Popovich, and I actually reside in Montesano and Grays Harbor County, but I'm advocating for older, mature, old-growth forests everywhere, Western Washington. And to tell my story, it's my ancestors were the Clemens of the Clemens Tree Farm was named after them, and this was they logged in the era of, I'm referring to a book by Ed Van Sickle. They tried to cut it all, and I just want to say that it kind of breaks my heart looking back at how they came over and tried to just take over and cut down the forest, and it was all about money, and it was about settling the place. And I feel like, as a descendant of great-great-grandpa Charles Clemens, perhaps they didn't know better what we were losing, and I feel like we do now, but we definitely know better. We've heard lots of comments today, great comments about that, and about how important these legacy forests are. So I just need to advocate for them, and I love the word legacy because my ancestors have left a legacy, and all of us are going to too. And so I want us to think about, like they said earlier, our kids and their children too. And I don't have much more to add, except I wish they left more. We only have little remnants left of these disjointed forests, and at least we have that. We could always keep what we do have.
Thank you. Vanessa Laval, and then Diane Perlman on deck.
Good afternoon, commissioners, managers, and staff, and community members. I love that everybody comes out and we're all passionate about making our place a great place to live. In thinking about this meeting today, as a PTA mom, I live in rural unincorporated Thurston County, but I'm a PTA mom at Olympia Regional Learning Academy. I'm in the PTA as an advisory chair, and we're going to be working on funding K-12 reform. But in the meantime, because that might be a process, I had this idea, you know, when I look at our region, everybody is transitioning from heavy industry to tourism. And I think this is an opportunity for the junior tax districts to really make a sustainable, recurring source of tax revenue and income. We have an opportunity to maybe tell our region's history. We don't have a logging or a timber museum in the area, although we have all of these people who that's their family's background. Maybe we could cite something in the junior tax district communities, like in the old Bordeaux site, or maybe in town in Rochester or Tenino, that could build upon outdoor recreation, which is really drawing a lot of people here. Per Washington Recreation and Conservation Office's most recent report, which is 2020, so I'm sure all of these figures have gone up. You know, for county-specific recreation, the county spent $650,000, but then we benefited $1.3 million. And that created 9,148 jobs, and we got over $95,000 in state and local taxes. And then on public land, this is again in Thurston County, the outdoor recreation we had to spend was $583,000, but we benefited another over $1 million again. And it created 7,340 jobs and generated $72,534 in state taxes. You know, the Port of Olympia wants to revitalize into a waterfront destination, and we could look to regional neighbors like Leavenworth, which was run down before the Junior League decided to go with a Bavarian theme, or Pybus Market in Wenatchee, which used to be a derelict warehouse with the train going through it. We could build upon what we already have. The county's comprehensive plan says they're going to work on trail connectivity, and hiking trails are huge for recreation, for mountain biking. Also, you know, they leave space for wildlife. And then those funds would be recurring. You know, we'll have access to state and federal funds soon for these type of conservation projects. But maybe we could look to the Economic Development Council within our county level to help create attractions in those areas and preserve the forest and draw people there. We could rival Olympic National Park or Mount Rainier. We have some beautiful forests here that deserve protecting. Thank you.
Diane Perlman is up, Gary Whitley on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am Diane Perlman, 4035 116th Avenue Southeast in Olympia. I'm here in support of awarding the contract for Offutt and Pattison Lakes, as well as the cyanobacteria treatment for Lawrence Lake. We need your approval of this contract so that we can have a scientifically based study of our lake. We are hoping to end the era of opinion-based advocacy for the lake and begin an era where people can discuss their ideas and come to a mutually agreeable plan based on the data provided by an unbiased third party. The recent letters you have received attempting to dissolve the OLMD have a few reoccurring themes. I will touch on two today, and I promise this is the last week I'm going to talk about this. I know it's the third time in a row. First, the OLMD has never advocated for the use of herbicides to poison the lake. Many other treatment options are available to us. We hope to understand the unique needs of Offutt Lake and then, as our budget allows, explore these options. Secondly, another reoccurring theme in the letters you received has been that since the one weed is gone, there's no need to form an OLMD. We've had 2 lake surveys this year already, May and June, and have hardy volunteers from the OLMD that have literally sampled 25 locations on the lake. And we also had the assistance of Barry Halverson from Lake Lawrence. His expertise level is just unmatchable. And what we found both in May and June is that the types of weeds and the density is unusually high for this time of year. There appears to be a huge need for public education and about human-based behaviors that impact the lake. And these, from our point of view, include the impact of fertilizers and pesticides on lake ecology, the impact of poorly maintained septic systems, and docks using old tires filled with styrofoam pellets there are many in Offutt Lake used as flotation. Thank you for your time and thank you for your vote today.
Thank you, Diane. Gary Whitley's up. Natasha Hayes on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Gary Whitley, and I live at 4035 116th Avenue Southeast. My wife Diane and I live on Offutt Lake on property that was purchased by her grandmother over 100 years ago. We believe that Offutt Lake is the most beautiful lake in Thurston County. We have a 5-mile-per-hour boat speed limit, which keeps the lake quiet and peaceful, and a great place for fishing. We also have a wonderful resort and restaurant on the lake. The people who use the Fish and Wildlife public boat launch have been doing a great job cleaning their boats before bringing them into our lake, such that we do not have a milfoil problem. Yes, it is a great lake, but there are some troubling trends, like the Thurston Regional Planning Council's report that water quality declined from fair in 2018-19 to poor in 2020-21. I had a visual for you there. There's been massive weed growth in 2021. There's some failing septic systems, derelict docks, and the overuse of fertilizers and pesticides, which put nutrients and poisons into our lake. Our steering committee formed to be a proactive presence in Offutt Lake to prevent further decline, reduce causes of degradation, and increase public education about how we can all be better stewards of this wonderful natural resource. That is why, after 2.5 years of work to form a lake management district, we are excited to be on the cusp of your approval of our Integrated Aquatic Vegetation Management Plan, the IVAMP, with Herrera Environmental Consultants. It is important to note that we received a $30,000 grant from the Department of Ecology to help pay for that IVAMP. Contrary to some misconceptions, the IVAMP is not a one-way path with mandates to use herbicides, but instead, it is a comprehensive scientific study of all aspects of the lake. This study will provide data that replaces the anecdotal stories about possible lake issues and will inform a draft work plan that will be created with public input. And this work plan will help focus our resources on the myriad ways of continuing to protect and preserve Offutt Lake. For all of these reasons and more, we ask for your support of the Herrera IVAMP contract that will come up later in your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Natasha Hayes with Lynn Fitzhugh on deck.
Again, County Commissioners, thank you so much for your support of Legacy Forests. I live in Northwest Olympia near Evergreen State College, which happens to have 1,000 acres of beautiful trees, which is very, very nice to live by. I'm in the ironic position, I'm a developmental pediatrician who specializes in children with disabilities. So the ironic position is that I am, very, very interested in having money for the schools as well. But I think people have made it amply clear that there are other ways to get revenue for the schools, and that is what I think is very important for the junior tax districts to know. The other thing is that, as we said, our legislature needs to look at further tax ways that we can get money for the schools. And I personally am on the Special Education Advisory Committee for the state. And we write bills that we recommend to the legislature to look at. And I pledge that I will, among other things, write a bill to request that they look at other options for financing. But again, there already are other options that actually will give plenty of money for financing it. And I'm a big believer in giving money, ample money to the schools to especially help our children who have disabilities. But it needs to come from another source, and it can easily come from another source, and it can happen now. We don't have to have more, we can look for other ways to have this, but it's available now with timber that isn't legacy forest. So thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Fitzhugh on deck is Aaron Greenlee.
I'm Lynn Fitzhugh, Executive Director of Restoring Earth Connection, and I live in Olympia. In May of 2022, Land Commissioner Franz suddenly suspended DNR's older forest policy. This policy had protected the oldest 7% of stands in DNR's holdings. Since then, 6 to 8 parcels of what we call legacy forest, older biologically diverse forests, have been auctioned off each month alongside of 4 to 6 plantation parcels. At this time, somewhere between 3 to 5% remain. If this goes on, pretty much we won't have these kinds of trees. For the past 2 years, every month at DNR's board meetings, dozens of citizens come out and plead with them not to do this. They mainly ignore us. They claim that they have to cut these parcels because they have already put 2 years into surveying them. This is a choice they are making and a false argument, because if they were listening to us, by now they would be chopping down only plantation forests. Why do we plead to protect the trees? Because Northwest forests, Oregon, Washington, and BC, have the largest carbon stores in the world, which are released by logging. Let that sink in. We are in a climate crisis so severe that it threatens whether kids in grade school today will live out their natural lives. Literally cutting down natural solutions to climate cannot be how we prepare them for the future. Immediate needs cannot trump long-term needs. I want to say to the member of the Junior Taxing District who spoke before me, I hear and feel your pain. My daughter-in-law is a principal in this state, and I recently spent a week volunteering with all the 6th grade science classes in an Ole middle school. I saw what the too big class sizes and the no TAs does to education. And as you well know, this is the result of decades of the legislature underfunding the public schools. This is a problem that must be solved in the legislature. It cannot be solved by sporadic timber sales. This is not a problem that the commissioners have created, or even DNR, although DNR has made poor choices about what to cut. If representatives of the timber industry have brought forward this concern to you, please consider the source, companies who make large profit from these cuts. The commissioners here before you, every one of them, have voted heroically every time they can to protect our kids' futures by protecting the 80 to 120-year-old forests. I invite you to join us in finding climate protective ways of providing for the education of our future generations. I am very proud of our commissioners and support their big picture thinking.
Thank you. Aaron Greenlee, Joyce Wilms on deck.
Good afternoon. I'm Erin Greenlee from Olympia. So many of us are here today because we care deeply about children. We care about our children's health, our children's safety, their education, their opportunities, their future. A regular worry for me is, what kind of future will they have because of climate change? As we speak, a massive heat dome is enveloping a large part of our country, and it's only one of so many recent climate crises. The trajectory we are on has even more dire consequences. I have hope, though, because as individuals and as a collective, we still have the power to change this trajectory. We need our elected officials to do everything they can to make bold changes necessary to halt the worst consequences of climate change. So I thank you, our county commissioners, for your courageous stand to protect our last remaining legacy forests. It's amazing to me that as these trees reach 100 years old, their ability to store and draw down carbon increases even more. While governments and companies invest billions of dollars in technologies to draw down carbon, our precious legacy forests are already safely doing this crucial work. Once these forests are cut, they're gone, and with them, all the benefits they provide. For the future of our children, we must protect them. In the meantime, I know that our underfunded education system desperately needs financial resources. In the short term, as many people have mentioned, there are other trees on state trust lands that can be cut, which can provide the urgently needed funding. Thank you, commissioners, for the countless hours you have dedicated and will dedicate toward protecting these irreplaceable forests while you explore other options. In the long term, isn't it time that we change the outdated policies that were put into place when the DNR was created in 1957, a time when climate change wasn't a concern for most people? There have been excellent ideas put forth today for study funding. What elected officials could we stand behind who have the vision and the will to develop ways of funding education that are sustainable and reliable? What systems could we encourage our legislators to implement which could provide much needed funds for education? Within this current crisis lies the seed of possibility to fund a robust, reliable education system without auctioning off a key part of the solution to the long-term health of our planet and our children's futures. Thank you.
Joyce Wilms with Maria Ruth on deck.
Good afternoon. My name is Joyce Wilms. I live at 3030 Wilderness Drive, Olympia, Washington. I'm here today to talk about Thurston County Council on Aging, otherwise known as the Medical Equipment Bank and Senior News. I want to take this time to also thank two of the commissioners for coming to the open house. Thank you, Ty, and thank you, Gary Edwards. I'm here to talk about funding. The reason I don't have a lot of people here today is because the Medical Equipment Bank doesn't close until 2:30. And so I'm requesting funding. Again, I did send everybody an email in April. And I was hoping to get some help to purchase a building for the Medical Equipment Bank. And we're requesting $170,000. And we ask you to do what you can. Otherwise, we will have enough with that money to have the down payment for it. We're receiving $250,000 from the grant from the capital budget this year. Thank you for your time, and please come back to the Medical Equipment Bank because we help a lot of people. The people we help are, we have homeless people come in to get equipment and bandages and other items. We have low-income people coming in. We also recycle. The Medical Equipment Bank that most people would throw away, we might take 2 wheelchairs and make 1 out of them. And same with the unopened medical supplies we have available. So please stop by and see what we're doing, and please consider helping us out. Thank you very much for your time.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Joyce? Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
I'm very familiar with the bank. When my husband's grandma passed away, we were able to donate that equipment, and we're happy that it went to families that needed it. But I'm wondering, in terms of your request, is there a timeline that you're on?
Yes, probably within the next month. And we already been pre-approved, or we can come up with that last $170,000. And thank you.
Thank you. We have Maria Ruth with Mike Ruth on deck.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. My name is Maria Ruth, and I live in Southeast Olympia, Washington. And I'm here in support of the moratorium on logging of legacy forests. Back in 2019, after 7 years of sitting in on Board of Natural Resources meetings regarding the long-term conservation strategy of the marbled murrelet, which is the seabird that nests in our legacy forests in Washington State, Board member Chris Rakedahl gave a very impassioned speech about needing a new way forward for Washington State Forest. He has iterated his points over and over and over that in Washington State we need our forest to protect species, to protect habitats, and to protect the counties, junior taxing districts, and logging industry that are dependent on revenue from our state forest logging. This is a huge paradigm shift, and it's extremely uncomfortable for everyone to embrace that paradigm shift, to look at Washington's forest in an absolutely new way. And we've heard great ideas this afternoon on ways to do that, to bring in revenue. Rachel also referred to the invisible share of revenue that was going to schools in Washington state. So we hear over and over that our state timberlands support our schools, support our schools, support our schools. In fact, that share is, as Chris Reykdal said, nearly invisible. And I think it's really important to get that message out, that it is not as critical as we think, as we are led to believe by the Department of Natural Resources. There are other ways to fund our state education system, and it's really important to keep in mind the timber industry, the counties that rely on this revenue. They are often forgotten when people like me, who identify as tree huggers, come forward and say, stop logging the forests, right? There are people whose lives, whose legacies, whose pride, whose workmanship is tied to these forests, and it's really important to keep them in mind as well as we go forward with this big conversation. Thank you.
Mike Ruth, followed by Kathleen Nolte.
Hi, my name is Mike Ruth, and I'm a resident of Olympia in Southeast Olympia, and I teach at Evergreen College. And at Evergreen College, I'm in contact with many young people who are really anxious, rightly anxious, about the future that we're leaving for them. And as I look around the room here, I notice many elders here, thank you, have spoken eloquently on behalf of future generations. But I think we have to take into mind that business as usual has a real generational aspect to it. And so I just visited my mother. She's 92 years old, and she thinks she cares about climate change, but she also has said to me, by the time this happens, I'm going to be in my grave. So, I think there's a generational divide here where elders who make most of the decisions get most of the benefit from most of the revenue, and our property owners are generally in favor of business as usual. Young people see this as a future disaster. And so, I don't need to make the case that climate change is happening. We know it's happening. People here have already talked about floods and fires and risks and water quality and loss of mycelial networks, and that these are real things. So, in what world do we say to our young people, okay, climate change is happening. We know that global warming and reduced moisture and increased winter flooding, reduced moisture and fire in the summer are inevitable. They're getting worse. And let's just cut down the trees that prevent that and make it even worse. Is this cognitive dissonance, or is this business as usual? It's very hard to turn a massive cruise ship around. Business as usual is like that. It's hard to make course corrections, but they have to be made. And I want to thank you in the board for your moratorium on this forest cutting as a way of starting to make that change of culture and resist business as usual and do something better for our young people who need to have hope for the future of their lives and their recreation and their environment. I want to change the frame, actually, and say that we should be nurturing our legacy forests. We should be supporting policies that link habitat cores together with corridors that animals and water quality and drainage can use. We should be turning our legacy forests into banks of future growth of, as we've heard, tourism, of environmental quality, of water support. We should be going that direction. We shouldn't be fighting the idea that these forests should be cut down. We should be advocating for these forests to be expanded and nurtured and turned into long-term resources. I teach at Evergreen. It's graduation season. And, it takes patience to get young people to graduate. And it takes some diligence by the elders to make sure that works out for them for their future. These legacy forests, though not yet old-growth forests, give them another 50 years or 100 years, they're going to graduate, and they're going to become old-growth forests, and they're going to do even more for us than what they do now. And we need to be patient like we are with our children and help them graduate and become the sources of biodiversity and resilience that we need. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Kathleen Nolte, John Pettit on deck. pass Mr. Pettit, and then we'll go to the Zoom folks.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live in East Olympia. I guess I'm kind of shocked here, and I'm really pleased. I'm pleased to see all these people. Normally, I'm here by myself, or maybe one or two other people. But I think that brings kind of an important point. Lately, we've gone to only half the number of county commissioner meetings. We've actually disengaged from the public comment. These people represent exactly what we need as people that want to talk to their representatives. Not once or twice a month for maybe 3 minutes, but they want to have that opportunity with all the different topics. So I'm going to discuss the idea. Number one is that you should return back to a weekly meeting, if not for business purposes, but to listen to the people that have elected you, the ones that are paying $140,000 a year to have you sitting up there, plus their staff. And I realize you're going to be taking kind of a little pause in meetings for several weeks, and that makes it difficult for people to reach you. And this has to be a one type of job. I realize there is one of you that has a primary job, and this is a secondary job. You need to have just one job when you're a county commissioner, and that's listening to the people here. I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I'm just happy that we have all these people having opinions and bringing it out, because it needs to come out. The voice of the people is only meaningful if they're allowed a time and opportunity to speak it. Now, I got 1 minute left, and there is one other topic which I'm going to touch on, and that has to do with one of my favorite topics, of course, is the atrium building here. One of the things which I believe I may choose to take some action on, I'd like to see the county take the action, is during the process of this move in and this building occupancy, the county provided that they would pay for tenant improvements. Upon further review, the vast majority of $10 million was not tenant improvements, it was building improvements, meaning the money that was taken for building improvements needs to be returned to the county from the owner of the building. And I believe that I can help form a way of going that direction if the county doesn't want to choose to go back after that money that was wrongfully taken from them. So thank you much, and get some more meetings. Let all these people, let them know they need to come and visit and tell you what they need. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. One more sign up, David Nightingale, and then we'll go to the online signups or the online.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having your public comment. My name is David Nightingale, and I am at 7640 Fair Oaks Road in unincorporated Thurston County. I'm also chair of the Pattison Lake Management District, and wanted to just note as a point of information that Pattison Lake is nearly as beautiful as Offutt Lake, very nearly beautiful. Just for the record, I needed to get that out there. And then the other thing is, I can't really add much to what Gary and others have said about the importance of the integrated aquatic vegetation management plans, but I urge you to vote yes on issue 6E on your agenda. Thank you.
Can somebody help me with the?
Yeah, it's hard to say online. Janine L.
Commissioner with good eyes.
Don't ask me.
If you'd like to testify, you have 3 minutes. If you don't, just let us know. We're just going to call folks one by one.
Janine L.
Yeah.
has her hand raised.
I think you called my name, did you not?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, just a little feedback to start with about the engagement process. It was really difficult to know when you're attending a Zoom meeting whether or not you get to make comment, because there was no sign up for the comment on the Zoom sign up. Also, there was no indicator whether we'd have the option to do comment on the email that we received afterwards. So it was very difficult to engage with, knowing about that. Other jurisdictions use, signups for that on the Zoom portion, and also usually, there's an email provided, who to contact if you have any questions. So that was difficult. But the comment I really want to make today is about our forests. And what I want to say, and it's so great to see all these people supporting the County Commission and the work that they've already been doing. It's unfortunate that the only situation we appear to be offered in the state is a balancing act that, we lose revenue that affects funding essential services like schools and libraries and fire services, et cetera, by mowing down the legacy forests in our state. Until the connection between clear-cutting this most valuable resource and these revenues is severed, though, we will have to work with the reality that this revenue provided to the junior taxing districts represents a tiny percentage of their overall budget, especially here in Thurston County. We can find these small pots of money through a wide variety of other means, including expanding the environmental services and recreation we offer our public in and on these lands. Prioritizing the incredible benefits that these standing forests give, the habitat for wildlife, the recreation for people, and the very crucial carbon mitigation capacity of older trees and the vast mycorrhizal networks under them. These are the things we need to be paying attention to right now in this moment. We support the work of the County Commission, which you've already done in prioritizing these really important benefits, and we want them to continue to move even further, actually, in the direction of protecting every parcel of land and every old tree they can. These forests and trees are what make our communities more resilient to all the climate change impacts that we worry about, like heat domes and wildfire and flooding and drought and biodiversity loss. These green spaces actually represent our children's future better than anything else could. Please stay on the path, and please do not be deterred by these cynical forces of corporate capture and the completely outsized role that they've been able to play up to this point in the loss of these community benefits. This era has to end. We are counting on you to hold the line for our forests and our future, and I appreciate you listening to us today.
Gordon Wheat.
Gordon Wheat, you're up.
Muted.
You're still muted.
I'm unmuted now.
Perfect.
Hello, County Commissioners. My name is Gordon Wheat, and I live in Olympia. And I want to also thank you for your support of the moratorium on legacy forest logging in Thurston County, especially in light of how unfairly I feel that our capital forest has been treated by the DNR. And this is something that some of you know about, but the capital forest has been used to the exclusion of all other state forests to pay the quote-unquote interest on the quote-unquote purchase of some other lands. And so now these harvests are occurring in addition to all of the forests that are being logged by the DNR for reasons other than paying this interest to the federal government for a piece of land that had been very badly treated and is trying to be turned into a plantation forest. And so I think we have a right to stand up to the DNR. I believe we have a right to say our county does not like to be abused in this way. I'm a user of the Capitol Forest. I mountain bike there. I build trails. I resurrect the trails out of the clear cuts. And I hate to see our legacy forests be denuded. And of course, I believe that we have to do everything we can to protect the sequestration of carbon for our health and well-being. Thanks very much.
I'll read off the names of people that have their hand raised. And just be mindful if you're saying repetitive comments that have already been said, I would ask. Christy, where did it go? There was one.
Charlotte Persons has her hand raised.
Okay, well, there was one that had their hand raised for a while that's now gone. Charlotte Persons.
Charlotte is muted.
Trying to unmute. Am I unmuted?
Yes, thank you. Can hear you.
Great. And just give me a second here. Great. I've lost my written testimony, but I would like to say I'm Charlotte Persons. I live in Olympia, Washington. And before I retired, was a teacher and an instructor in the community college system. And I understand through my own personal experience the problems of underfunding our public schools and our community colleges. I have watched people be riffed. I have been under pressure to retire early in order to save my college money during the 2008 financial crisis. So I understand very well the problems that not having a few $100,000 can cause to a junior taxing district. Nevertheless, I support the county commissioners in their asking for a moratorium on cutting these particular sales, Cabbage Patch and carrots in the legacy forests. And I hope, my sincere hope is that the taxing districts and DNR and the commissioners can somehow sit down and work out a way for DNR to cut other trees so that the junior taxing districts can continue to get the revenue they need. Now that's a short-term fix, and many people have talked about how we need a legislative fix. We need long-term solutions for supporting our taxing districts. But this is the one we can do now, is for all the parties to sit down together and figure out a way to end up with a win-win situation. Thank you.
Julie Ratner.
Hello, my name is Dr. Julie Ratner. I live in Olympia, Washington. And I'd like to say and confirm and agree with many people in the room, there is absolutely no reason to rush to cut down the oldest, most carbon dense, and biologically diverse forests that remain in Thurston County. I grew up in a family of teachers and believe wholeheartedly that the vitality of the next generation and the future health of the planet depends on well-funded schools. I stand together with students, teachers, administrators, elders, any health impaired individuals of any age, because we all need these trees. We all need fresh air. These precious few remaining old growth trees are the most immediate and cost-effective solution for Western Washington school districts to achieve our state climate goals. Please look at Pacific Forest Trust's model to sustain America's forests for all public benefits of wood, water, wildlife, and people's well-being in cooperation with the government's agencies. Put the brakes on by preventing the sale of any Capitol Forest legacy forest parcels. Trees are social beings, and when left in an undisturbed forest, they sing robustly. When I share a device that I own that converts the electric signals of the tree into notes, and I place the electrodes on the tree, they sing harmoniously in an old growth legacy forest. On my website, I share a recording of a 1,500-year-old ancient cedar tree with a strong harmonious song because it's connected to the mycorrhizal network, the Wood Wide Web. They need to be connected in a forest community to thrive. When we clear cut a forest, the entire network collapses. Trees shriek, they don't sing. Junior Taxing District, you have legitimate needs, and the public and Thurston County officials need to hold DNR accountable. Help us to enact a moratorium of all old growth timber sales already prioritized for protection and restoration. The immediate solution for the schools and DNR is from purchasing replacement land or selling carbon credits to offset lost revenue from timber harvest.
Please wrap up your comment, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have time for one more before our public, or I can call off another name.
Let's go to the next. Esther Cronenberg.
Yeah, okay, you got it.
Esther Cronenberg. Come on, Esther.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Esther Cronenberg. I live off Cooper Point Road. I've heard it said that time is like a roll of toilet paper. The more you use it, the faster it goes. For all of us who are living now, I think we all sense how fast time is going. It's challenging living now because we're being forced to adapt to so much change in a very short period. The changes we see in the Earth's weather systems are sure to accelerate in the coming decades, that we have to deal with housing and dwindling water resources, pandemics, and the loss of biodiversity. These are shared problems that will require shared solutions. With that reality in our minds, it's clear that continuing to cut the legacy forest is a very terrible idea. Our once abundant forests are no more, and to act as if we can still continue to cut them down like we did 100 years ago is foolishness. We ignore change at our own peril. Both the county commissioners and the superintendent have said they don't need the revenue from these timber sales. We value the life of the forest over short-term expendable cash. Instead of continuing the outdated policies that don't recognize the situation, our government and its agencies like DNR should focus on how to preserve our remaining forests, to provide economic support to the people and communities that depend on them. That's the proper function of government, to secure the common good and ensure that all people, including those who rely on timber harvest, have a path to economic success. In 2022, DNR permitted a clear cut in a critical area in the Cooper Crest neighborhood that gave city residents a close-up of the degraded landscape left behind. The silver lining of this reckless timber harvest was the clear example it gave to thousands of county residents of DNR practices that are completely contrary to community interests and common sense. What occurred at Cooper Crest had everyone asking why a DNR is allowing the destruction of the very abundance it's supposed to protect for the common trust. I am very, very grateful to the county commissioners for their work to prioritize and protect the inherent ecosystem value of our living legacy forests. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask, before we go any further, we had two public hearings scheduled for 3:30, one regarding a telecommunications franchise agreement and one about a HUD annual action plan. Has anyone here to testify about those items? And that includes online. I didn't think so. So we are going to do those public hearings after the Board of County Commissioners meeting. So we're going to continue with public comment. Christy White, you're next.
Hello, Commissioners. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
My name is Christy White, and I am a Thurston County citizen for over 25 years. I could say ditto to so much of the support here this afternoon for preserving legacy forests. What I'd like to encourage you is to use your connections and your influence with your counterparts in other counties, the Washington State Association of Counties, to engage and ask DNR to continue a moratorium on legacy forests here in Thurston County. A system can be developed that will not harm other programs and other tax district recipients. The extensive trust land performance assessment documents and analysis by Deloitte, which DNR engaged, are available on the DNR's website. This study provides a wealth of information and possibility for DNR to consider that do not require the elimination of our small and unique percentage of legacy forests. By your continued interest and involvement, DNR can no longer disregard other possibilities. There should not be a loss to beneficiaries when DNR has alternatives that do not destroy legacy forests. I thank you for your support and interest in the forest gems of our county. It is appreciated, and I hope you will continue for the benefit of all our county residents. Thank you.
Paul Butler.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Butler, a small forest landowner in rural Thurston County adjacent to Capitol Forest. As a small forest landowner and the son of a cabinet maker, I support a viable timber industry and the management of existing DNR plantations to generate revenue for trust beneficiaries. I'm convinced, however, that converting what little remains of older state forests to more plantation acreage is not in the best interest of the citizens of Washington. On July 21st, 2022, the Washington Supreme Court confirmed that the state has a constitutional mandate and broad authority to serve all the people of Washington when managing state lands. This unanimous decision recognized that DNR can integrate the many diverse public benefits of forests beyond maximizing revenue generation from timber harvest. For example, older forests are more resistant and more resilient in the face of climate change. I applaud the commissioners for trying to work with DNR to protect what little remains of older forests in Thurston County. While they were unsuccessful in a recent attempt to have acreage in our county included in a 2,000-acre set-aside, additional funds to purchase replacement lands are likely to be approved by the legislature under the Climate Commitment Act. Thus, there remains the possibility that these older forests in our county can be protected without jeopardizing revenue for the trust. While there is sufficient plantation acreage of appropriate age on DNR's managed lands to adequately fund trust beneficiaries for a while, trying to fund the trust in perpetuity by cutting older forests is a fool's errand. The trust will need more and more money as the population grows, which can't be supported on a finite resource base. Clearly, reimagining the trust is complicated and will require legislative action to truly serve all the people. In the meantime, I know that many support a moratorium on logging older forests on state land because of their outsized contribution to combating climate change through carbon sequestration and providing valuable wildlife habitat. It is incumbent on all of us to contact our legislators and urge them to fix this broken trust system and remove the financial uncertainty for trust beneficiaries. We can save what is little left of these older forests and make the trust beneficiaries whole. Thank you for your time.
You get that next name.
Tony Ubelli.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you so much for taking my comments. My name is Tony Usabelli. I'm a resident of the Olympia urban growth area and have been a resident for nearly 40 years. I'm here today wearing my hat as the co-chair of the South Sound Sierra Club to speak in strong support for the moratorium that you've heard such articulate commentary on from the previous speakers. We certainly want to encourage that and also to thank you as commissioners for the work that you have done already to preserve those legacy forests. As I said, I don't think I could be nearly as articulate as many of the other speakers who've spoken in favor of this about the numerous benefits associated with the value of legacy forests around carbon storage, forest resilience, and recreation. And I do need to also recognize, of course, that there are tax issues associated with, particularly for the junior taxing districts. But again, you've heard from previous speakers that not only are there short-term options and short-term solutions that can help mitigate these impacts on our critical resources that we need for schools, fire districts, and others, but also if we work together, we have the opportunity to make some substantive reforms to the process that will no longer require us to be so dependent on the cutting of our legacy forests for short-term gain. With that, again, I want to thank you and let you know that the Sierra Club has this as a high priority, both at the state and local level, the preservation of forest, and we stand ready to work with you and the staff of the county in any way that we can to on this important issue. Thank you.
Tom Anderson. Tom Anderson.
Hello, my name is Tom Anderson. I live at 402 Summit Lake Shore Road in Olympia, and I've been a resident of the Summit Lake watershed for over 45 years. First of all, I wanted to comment and thank the county commissioners for their support in our efforts to initiate a moratorium with DNR on the Delica watershed, which adversely, or the Delica water cut, the proposed cut that they had, and the adverse effects on our water quality and on our land. I have been a neighbor of the Capitol Forest, like I said, for nearly 45 years. And so I've seen the daily impact of the clear cutting, not only adjacent to my property about 20 years ago when DNR clear cut, but also on my drive home from Olympia every day. I see the astounding amount of clear cutting going on and the change in the landscape and the behavior of the environment around us. So I support the efforts of the county commissioners, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart for their efforts. And I hope that together as a community, we can enact the change that's necessary for our own and our children's survival. Thank you.
Rob, you are up.
Rob Pogue.
Hello, County Commissioners. I'll keep it short and sweet. I am a representative of the Lake Michigan and the crew. Commissioner Fournier, we're looking forward to seeing you out there soon. Just here to voice my support for the IVAMP and with the Herrera for a comprehensive study of our lake. That way we can really move forward protecting, preserving our beautiful watershed. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can get a yes.
There's no other hands up? Does that mean everyone else on Zoom is staff or just an observer? Wave your hand as well if you don't have access to a digital. Okay, we have a guy.
Kristen Nyberg.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Christian Nyberg. I'm a special ed teacher at Washington Middle School, and I'm here to support the ban on the stop of logging of legacy forests in the Capitol Forest area in Thurston County. I'm also an Olympia resident, and I want to echo what a lot of other people have said, but in particular as a special ed teacher, the impacts on our students are pretty dramatic when it comes to some of this severe weather, and also the real benefits that a lot of our students have with grounding in our natural forests. And these legacy forests are excellent places for our students to decompress and find ways of reconnecting with themselves and their bodies. So it's crucial, and I know that we can find other sources of funding which will support our schools. Thank you.
Charlotte Oh, never mind.
Okay. Anyone else?
Throwing me off too.
Last call. Okay, the one in the middle, top middle.
Cheryl.
Cheryl, you're up.
That's okay. It's a horrible Swedish name.
Okay. A wonderful Swedish name.
People go all bad, all bald. But anyway, yeah, I'm just a concerned citizen who cares about our schools and our legacy forests. My parents are both teachers. I understand it's hard to run a school when you're underfunded. I want to praise the commissioners for recognizing the value of our old legacy forests and protecting them for our students, mitigating climate change and representing thousands and thousands of constituents. People really do care about what we have here in Washington. I mean, we're the Amazon of the Pacific Northwest. We call ourselves the Evergreen State, and I hope that we never have to change our name and that people do come here for tourism and eco trips and ooh and ah over our huge 250-foot cedar trees with 6-foot bases. So it appears that DNR is making some wrong choices with their timber sales. They're targeting our oldest biologically diverse forests for commercial logging in violation with their own policies and procedures, which is why they're getting some lawsuits. DNR's the only reason that Rochester School District is at risk of losing revenue. DNR needs to defer harvest of timber sales in areas that are prioritized for protection and restoration, and immediately start planning timber sales in other locations that will produce 2.7 million versus 2.1 million for the school district. There's plenty of plantations. So when can we all come to the table and make a deal? If there's a will, there's a way. And we have a solid plan and a solution. There are some maps showing areas that should be protected and restored and remain. I think 7%, 112,000 acres, I believe, is all we have left in Washington. So together we can do the right thing for all our citizens and take care of everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom who has not had a chance and wishes to provide public comment? You'll have to either raise your hand or indicate with your camera. Okay, anyone else in the boardroom who didn't have a chance to provide testimony before we close it off? Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for turning out. And let's go on to the next piece of our agenda, which is County Manager's Update.
Nothing to report, Chair.
Okay, then let's move on to consent items A through V. Is there any request from a commissioner to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second to approve consent items 3A through 3V. Non-debatable motion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us all the way to page 7. We pick up Department Item 5A, 2024-25 Budget Amendment Number 1. Nicole Martinez, our Budget and Fiscal Manager, to brief the board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Nicole Martinez, Budget and Fiscal Manager. Today can you hear me clear? Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Today I'm asking for adoption of the 24-25 Budget Amendment. Amendment 1 encompasses adjustments such as technical corrections, rectifying errors and omissions, and incorporating unanticipated revenues. The 2024-2025 budget was officially adopted on December 15th, 2023. Subsequently, on April 17th, I presented proposed amendments to the budget, and in the 29th work session received decisions on those changes for the 24-25 budget. Additionally, I came before you on June 3rd to present for you review and approval of 3 adjustments to the decisions that were made on April 29th. The first adjustment presented was to remove the transfers that moved general fund appropriation from the Sheriff Law Enforcement, Public Defense, Prosecuting Attorney to the Public Safety Sales Tax Funds. The second adjustment presented was to approve change requests from offices and departments intended for the Public Safety Sales Tax Funds. These requests have been resubmitted and requested for general fund authority. These 2 adjustments were presented to allow the Budget Office time to examine the various aspects related to the structure of funds and to collaborate more closely with the Auditor's Office, the Sheriff's Office, prosecuting attorneys, and public defense. The third adjustment presented was to implement the state auditor's recommendation to repay the real estate excise tax first quarter, so REIT 1 fund. The highlight major inclusions in the amendment: a $2 million transfer from the general fund to the roads fund, $1.9 million transfer from the general fund into REIT 1 fund, and a $1.6 million hold for the FJC Security Improvements project. These adjustments to the amendment were made in response to the increase in the 2023 general fund ending fund balance that was projected beyond the 24-25 budget when we were developing. During the biennium, it was projected that the general fund ending fund balance would be $33.5 million. The actual ending fund balance is $38.8 million. This is a $5.3 million increase above what was projected at the time. The reasons for these increases are: one, an increase in interest revenues beyond what was budgeted; ARPA loss revenue transfer, that's American Rescue Plan Act; an increase also in ARPA public sector workforce revenues. Expenditures estimated came in less than projected. Collectively, these reasons provided a $5.3 million increase in the general fund. That's all I have for you today. Thank you.
I move to approve the resolution to adopt budget amendment number 1, including attachments A, budget by department; B, budget amendment detail report; C, equipment list; and D, beginning fund balance.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the attached budget amendment and attachments indicated by the Vice Chair. Any discussion on this motion?
Appreciate all the work you put in, Nicole, and everybody else in the budget office.
Thank you.
Call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is 5B, Resolution for Amendment 1 to the 2024 Position Control Schedule. Tara Wickline from HR.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tara Wickline, Compensation and Benefits Manager. The resolution before you amends position control to capture changes that were approved by the board during the budget process. The resolution extends end dates for 4 positions and removes 2 others.
I move to approve the resolution for amendment 1 to attachment A of the 2024 position control schedule.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution regarding position control schedule. Any debate or discussion of this motion? Call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Public Health and Social Services is next with 5 items. 6A is Affordable Housing Funding Awards. Alex Purse from Affordable Housing Program Specialist.
Hi, Alex Purse, Affordable Housing Program Manager. Haven't gotten it updated in the AIS system yet. But yes, thank you. I'm here to ask for your approval of the Affordable Housing Capital Funding Awards for 8 projects for a combined total amount of $5,985,969 and authorize Public Health and Social Services to issue our funding award letters. In January, the Regional Housing Council approved issuing a request for proposals to solicit applications for the capital affordable housing projects. This RFP was issued in February and closed in April. The funding available under this RFP came from the Local Home Fund, both county and city of Olympia, House Bill 1406, Substitute Bill 5386, the Home American Rescue Plan Act, and the Home Investment Partnership Act. We had 10 applications that were submitted. The Thurston Affordable Housing Advisory Board members reviewed and scored these applications and then met on April 25th to make funding recommendations. They took these funding recommendations on May 8th to the Regional Housing Council, who has approved their recommendations, and now they're unanimously recommending to the Board of County Commissioners the following funding awards, which are listed on in your packet. The funding is expected to support the creation of 118 new units of affordable housing and assist in the conversion of 124 units of enhanced shelter to permanent supportive housing. And once a project is fully funded and has met all pre-contract requirements, our office will come back to the board to request authorization to sign contracts for each award.
Questions for Alex? Nope, is there a motion?
Move to approve the Affordable Housing Capital Funding Awards to fund 8 projects for a combined total estimated amount of $5,985,969 and authorize Public Health and Social Services to issue funding award letters.
Second.
Motion and second to approve these funding capital funding awards for 8 projects. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Alex. 6B is cold and hazardous weather contracts. Keely Marino on Zoom to brief the board.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services, Homeless Response Program Manager. I'm here today with this motion for you to hopefully approve cold and hazardous weather contracts with 3 agencies, nonprofits in our community that provide survival gear and shelter for individuals outside during extreme weather, including snow, heat, and poor air quality. The total amount that we're asking to be approved today is $337,766. And for those three projects, one would be for shelter in place, that's outreach activities with Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, hazardous weather pop-up sheltering for Interfaith Works, and then sheltering for families during the cold weather season for Family Support Center. These recommendations came before the Regional Housing Council and were approved, and we bring them to you now for your approval to move forward with these contracts. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Keely? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve cold and hazardous weather contracts with 3 nonprofit organizations to fund 3 cold and hazardous weather projects for a combined total of $337,766 for the 2024 program year, and authorize the interim director of public health and social services to execute the contracts and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the cold and hazardous weather contracts. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is 6C, Homeless Services Contract Amendments. Keely Marino again.
Yes, so this motion is, we're hoping that you will approve 55 contract amendments for homeless services activities. That's contracting with 16 distinct nonprofit agencies for a combined total of $15,330,146.84 for the 2024-2025 program year. These are contracts that were approved, 2-year contracts last year during our consolidated RFP process. These are the amendments that we are bringing before you. These are all funded out of state or local funds. Local funds would be the Local Home Fund and the Human Services Fund. This is all things homeless, whether that be outreach, hygiene services, shelter operations, rapid rehousing, eviction prevention, housing and essential needs, and coordinated entry, and all of those activities. So I would like to also state that they did come before the Regional Housing Council as well. They were approved these amendments were approved for funding. So I'm here to take your questions if you have any around approving these amendments.
Any questions for Keely? Is there a motion?
I move to approve 55 contract amendments for homeless services activities with 16 nonprofit organizations for a combined total of $15,330,146.84 for the 2024 to 2025 program year, and authorize the interim director of public health and social services to sign the amendments and any future amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion and second regarding these homeless service contract amendments. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 6D, grant amendment for the Lost Lake Community On-Site Sewage System Improvement Project. Season Long, Environmental Health Division Director, to brief the board.
Good afternoon. Today, we ask that you approve this grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology in a sum total of $485,516. This is a zero match grant. These funds will go to replace a failing septic system that will serve up to 17 units in the Lost Lake community, which is located in the McAllister Creek watershed. The health department will provide administrative oversight over the grant, as well as regulatory oversight. Once the system is installed, we'll give it final approval. I would like to add that the community has done a really good job trying to maintain the septage produced on this lot. They pump and spend over hundreds of thousands of dollars a year trying to maintain these failing systems. And so really the path forward is to replace these systems. And this is a really good example of a private-public partnership to come up with long-term solutions for these type of issues. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Questions for Susan?
You know,
Yes, sir.
I don't have any questions, but I think I need to explain to the public that all these very expensive items that we've been talking about since our public testimony, we've had numerous discussions about these, and staff's done an excellent job on explaining them to us, and that's why we don't have the questions. So, thank you.
Yep, they usually get teed up here after they've been thoroughly discussed and kind of all the kinks worked out of them, so it's usually how it goes. Thank you, sir. And so, motion on this?
I move to approve a grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology for the Lost Lake Community On-Site Sewage System Improvement Project in the amount of $485,516, and authorize the interim director of Public Health and Social Services to execute the agreement and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded regarding this grant agreement. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Last public health item is E, 6E, contract award for development of integrated aquatic vegetation management plans for Offutt and Pattison Lakes and cyanobacteria management plan for Lawrence Lake. Stuart Whitford, Environmental Health Program Manager, to brief the board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So today we're moving to have you execute the contract with Herrera Environmental Consultants in the amount of $236,876 for the development of integrated aquatic vegetation management plans for Offutt and Pattison Lakes and a cyanobacteria management plan for Lawrence Lake, and authorize the interim director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the contract and any amendments that do not exceed 10%. As you know, we conducted a request for proposal process for this. We received one proposal for the Lake Lawrence project and two proposals for Offutt and Pattison, and the scoring committee determined that Herrera was the successful bidder in both cases. Just a reminder that these are planning grants only. They're not implementation. They're meant to define in the future what may be done if necessary to address issues on these lakes.
Questions regarding this item? No? Okay, as our motion.
I move to approve the contract with Herrera Environmental Consultants for the development of integrated aquatic vegetation management plans for Offutt and Pattison Lakes and cyanobacteria management plan for Lawrence Lake on a fee-for-service basis, and authorize the interim director of Public Health and Social Services to execute the contract and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve this contract award. Any discussion?
I have one comment to make. I know we've heard a lot of public support for this moving forward, and I appreciate the comments we've heard. I think all of us up here have also heard some concerns regarding this topic, and I just wanted to say, for those who might have concerns, our agenda packet listed on our website, it's pretty lengthy this week. It's over 1,000 pages, but I did skim through the IVAMP section, and thank you, Stuart, for clarifying that this is a planning grant only. It's also laid out pretty clearly in that packet, starting on page 696, which I can write down and provide if you're interested in that. So starting on page 696, you can see the contract, and then on page 711, it maps out the whole plan, including the scope of work, activities, assumptions, deliverables, and the schedule, which includes a schedule for community outreach and engagement. So for anybody who wants to be included or participate in that process, all of that is lined out really clearly in the agenda packet. So I did come today ready to advocate for those who would like their voices to be heard. And after going through that agenda packet, I found that it was really clearly laid out how people can get more involved if they are interested. So thank you for that.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have 4 public works items. 7A is a contract award for Marvin Road Upgrade Phase 1, 22nd Avenue to Union Mills Road, CP 61478. Ben Enfield, please take it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ben Enfield, Senior Civil Engineer with Thurston County Public Works Design Engineering Group. Public Works is requesting permission from the Board of County Commissioners to move forward with award of the construction contract for Marvin Road Upgrade Phase 1 to Active Construction, Inc. of Tacoma, Washington in the amount of $5,860,860, and to authorize the Public Works Director to execute the contract and any change orders due to unforeseen conditions up to 10% of the contract value. On May 30th, a total of 8 bids were received. The low responsive bidder was deemed to be Active Construction, Inc. Just a reminder, improvements include a roundabout at the intersection of Marvin Road and 19th Avenue, curb and sidewalk, and a shared use pedestrian and bicycle path on both sides of the road. And the improvements will increase safety along the corridor for both vehicle traffic and foot traffic by slowing vehicles down and decreasing impact points. We'll also be including illumination improvements, safe pedestrian crossings, and water and sewer improvements for the City of Lacey are included, but will be paid for by the City of Lacey as specified in the previously approved interlocal agreement for this project. The total estimated construction cost, including contract award and construction management, is $6.5 million and is funded by a combination of approximately $2.965 million from the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board. This is grant funding. $1 million from developer mitigation, and approximately $1.678 million from transportation impact fees. And I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from the board? Nope. Is there a motion?
I move to award the contract for the Marvin Road Upgrade Phase 1, 22nd Ave to Union Mills Road project CP number 61478 to Active Construction, Inc. of Tacoma, Washington in the amount of $5,860,860, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract and any change orders for this project due to unforeseen conditions only, not for changes in scope, for up to 10% of the contract, $586,086, or an aggregate of $6,446,946.
Second.
Motion and second to approve this contract award. Any discussion, the motion? And then we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 7B, on-call engineering and professional consulting services. Dawn Ashton will be briefing the board. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dawn Ashton. I'm with Public Works Procurement Specialist, and I'm here to ask the board to move to approve entering into on-call engineering and professional consulting service contracts with 11 consulting firms as follows: HDR Engineering, Inc. for $1,500,000, Parametrics, Inc. $1 million, Para Environmental Consultants $750,000, Sage Geotechnical LLC $750,000, Fur and Piers $500,000, Transpo Group USA Inc. $500,000, Gray and Osborne Inc. $250,000, KPFF Inc. $250,000, KPG SOMAS $250,000, OTAC Inc. $250,000, and Trantech Engineering $250,000. I further request authorization for the Public Works Director to execute each contract up to the indicated limits, authorize amendments for up to a 10% additional contingency, approve optional yearly extensions as deemed appropriate, and execute individual task orders. These on-call consultant contracts will create a roster for us to do individual projects. These companies were selected after a competitive request for proposal process where we had a group of staff that scored the proposals that came in. We received 19 on April 8th, and then did the evaluations. We selected the top 11 companies, and then they were all ranked and scored. We selected the top companies, and then each task order, after we've awarded these, we'll create a roster, and each individual project will do a second tier evaluation and select the company that is the best to perform the work and negotiate a reasonable price. We anticipate these contracts to be a maximum of 5 years with an initial 2-year base period and 1-year renewal options. Each of the contracts will be judged separately for extensions as appropriate for Public Works needs, and all the ceiling amounts I read off, they vary because it depends on the different service categories that we're awarding. And the funding for these projects will come from various sources, such as the County Road Fund, water and sewer utilities, solid waste, and it'll tie to the specific project. So I'm moving to award these 11 contracts.
Questions for Dawn? Is there a motion?
Move to approve entering into on-call engineering professional consulting service contracts with HDR Engineering, Inc. for $1.5 million, Parametrics, Inc. for $1 million, Herrera Environmental Consultants, Inc. for $750,000, Sage Geotechnical, LLC for $750,000, Fair and Piers, $500,000, Transpo Group USA, Inc., $500,000, Gray and Osborne, Inc., $250,000, KPFF, Inc., $250,000, KPG Somas, $250,000, OTAC Inc., $250,000, and Trantech Engineering LLC, $250,000, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute each contract up to the indicated limits. Authorize amendments for up to 10% additional contingency. Approve optional yearly extensions as deemed appropriate, and execute individual task orders.
I think you missed one. Second.
All right, motion and a second regarding these on-call engineering and professional consulting services contracts. Any discussion on the motion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 7C, reject all bids and resolution calling for sealed bids for Thompson Creek Road Southeast at Thompson Creek Fish Passage Project CP 63025. Marcus Dorvick, Senior Civil Engineer, to brief the board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Marcus Dorvick, Public Works Senior Civil Engineer. Public Works is requesting permission from the board to reject all bids and to authorize the county engineer to rebid the contract to construct the Thompson Creek Road Southeast at Thompson Creek Fish Passage Project number 63025. On May 16, 2024, only one bid was received for the original advertisement and was almost $200,000 above the engineer's estimate. To solicit more competitive bids, staff plans to modify the project schedule to allow construction to occur over 2 work seasons with a 2024-2025 winter suspension. The engineer's estimate for construction is approximately $1.3 million, and as a refresher, Public Works has received $580,000 in state grants for this project. The remaining project costs are funded through REIT dollars. Total project cost is approximately $2.4 million. This project will replace a fish barrier as part of the Thurston County Fish Passage Enhancement Program, opening 10 miles of habitat. The current 10-foot corrugated elliptical culvert will be replaced with a 70-foot prefabricated bridge, which was previously purchased through a separate contract. In summary, Public Works is requesting permission to reject all bids for the May 16, 2024 bid opening and to approve the resolution calling for sealed bids for Thompson Creek Road Southeast at Thompson Creek Fish Passage Project number 63025. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Marcus? Nope. Is there a motion?
Move to reject all bids from the May 16, 2024 bid opening, and further move to approve the resolution calling for sealed bids and authorize the county engineer to set the bid date and time for receipt and opening of the said bids for the Thompson Creek Road Southeast at Thompson Creek Fish Passage Project CP number 63025.
Second.
Motion and second to reject all bids and approve this resolution calling for sealed bids. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Final business item is 7D, reject all bids and resolution calling for sealed bids for the Johnson Point Road and Hawks Prairie Road Intersection Improvements Project, CP 61364. Brian Meyer, Engineering Project Manager, to brief the board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Brian Meyer. I'm the Engineering Projects Manager for Thurston County Public Works. Public Works is requesting permission from the Board of County Commissioners to reject all bids and to authorize the county engineer to rebid the contract to construct the Johnson Point Hawks Prairie Road Intersection Improvement Project. On March 8th, a total of 5 bids were received to construct this project and Public Works received a protest of the apparent low bid and has determined in consultation with legal counsel that rejecting all bids and re-advertising the project would be in the best interest of Thurston County. The total estimated construction cost is approximately $3 million. Public Works has received over $2.7 million in federal funding from the Federal Highway Administration grant through the Surface Transportation Program, and the remaining funding will come from the transportation impact fees. In summary, Public Works is requesting permission to reject all bids from the March 8, 2024 bid opening and to improve the resolution calling for sealed bids for Johnson Point Road and Hawks Prairie Road intersection improvement project. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Nope. Is there a motion?
Move to reject all bids from the March 8th, 2024 bid opening, and further move to approve the resolution calling for sealed bids and authorize the county engineer to set the bid date and time for receipt and opening of said bids for the Johnson Point Road and Hawks Prairie Road intersection improvement project CP 61364.
Second? Motion and a second to reject bids and move to approve resolution calling for sealed bids. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Klaus.
I do not have a lot to report. This last week I attended an ORCA meeting. And I think that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards.
The only committee assignment that would be of interest to all of the board members, I attended the Washington County's insurance trustees meeting. And that had to do with health insurance, and we will be getting a slight increase, but I think we did pretty well. Thank you.
Commissioner Fournier.
We had a transportation policy board meeting where we further talked about some of the upcoming funding opportunities through some federal grants, and then there's a big reallocation of federal funds that's coming down the pipeline from other states that didn't spend money. So there are some funding opportunities that are coming up.
I gave a full report yesterday, and my calendar is also posted online for anyone interested in what I'm up to. And
Okay. We've had a long meeting. I'll keep it short. I had kind of an overwhelming number of things besides board meetings, but including, I'll just highlights, I guess, would be Sensing Guideline Commission, LOT, Squally Land Trust, George Sharp's birthday, meeting with Sea Level Rise Collaborative, met the new staff together, went to a community land trust event, did canvassing board training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots going on before the board recess, so we're all very busy.
And your son graduated from high school.
Yeah, I did and I stayed up all night at chaperoning grad night, which wiped me out for a few days after that. So it was a busy couple weeks. So we're at the end of the agenda. We are going to pick up with our board public hearings. I might propose a quick break if the board would indulge that. But this meeting is adjourned, and we'll pick up, let's say, in 10 minutes with our two public hearings.